So, how did you get here? Simple question. How did you get here? And by asking that question, I don't mean by car or what type of car or walking here. How did you get here? For our graduates in particular, I don't really mean that you passed your exams and finished all your projects, your classes and teachers. In part, that's how you got here. How was it that you got here? I don't really mean your parents or your family, although in large part, that is how you got here. How is it that you got here? It's a question I often ask of myself. Very often as I drive to downtown Buffalo, and we'll often see individuals, many of them very young, on the off-ramp at a street corner or under one of the overpasses. Clearly they are indigent, some holding signs asking for help, others just simply there. And I often wonder, how is it that that person got there? And I remember back, now it's probably 35 years ago, when I was first beginning my time in the seminary. And the parish that I was assigned for the summer, St. John Canty's on the east side of Buffalo, the corner of Broadway and Swinburne. Tough neighborhood, 35 years ago. Tough neighborhood right now. And we ran a soup kitchen there, Monday through Friday. And one of my duties was to wash pots and pans. That's very easy. I'm Polish. We like to clean. It's what we do, So that was really easy. And sometimes I had to help with the food preparation or put things away. And one particular day, Monsignor Golumbek, the pastor, came up to me as I was washing the pots and pans, and he said, "Kid, follow me." We walked to the food line, and he put a tray in my hand, and he said, "Go through the food line." And he did the same. And once our trays had food on it, he said, "Now go and find someone and sit with them and listen to them." Said, "We all know you know how to talk. We want you to listen. Listen." And so I sat with a young man. I don't recall his name. I would put him in his early 30s. And he taught me a valuable lesson that day, because as I sat and I listened to this young man, just a few years older than me, I realized he had a master's degree in computer science. I learned that he had been married. I learned that he had children. And I learned also what led him to be alone in this soup kitchen, in the situation that he was, homeless. I learned how he got there. And after that experience, I remember thinking, all of us, myself included, just a width of a hair away from perhaps the same circumstances of life. Life can turn so quickly. And so I've often, because of that experience, asked the question, how is it that I got here? Well, tonight being graduation, good chance to ask that very question. How is it that you got here? How did you get here? And really maybe a question that should be asked before that is, where are you? It's a question maybe to ask before that first one. And along with that question, where are you, perhaps a similar question, who are you? Who are you? Where are you? And how did you get here? Well, today's readings today, of course, is the Nativity of John the Baptist. It's a solemnity in the church, and so we celebrate the prayers and the readings of that day. And we learn an awful lot about identity. It comes up very clearly in the readings today. And that sense of identity, who am I? Very important question to ask, because we are, I think, at least in the 56 years of my life, in an epic battle of darkness clouding true identity. Very often we define and describe ourselves using different ways of answering the question, who are you? Who am I? Where are you? And of course, hopefully, as graduates of a Catholic school, well, soon to be graduates of a Catholic school, I think you'll all get a diploma tonight. Hopefully, the answer to that question is that you're a disciple of Christ. That is, first and foremost, your identity. That is who you are, that is where you are, and that is exactly what brought you here tonight. And there are a number of different identities when we think of one individual, ourself or someone else, an individual's relationship to Christ. Some perhaps maybe have the identity of being like arrows, that Christ is one arrow going in one direction and themselves as an arrow going in another direction. I've met individuals like this. Maybe you have too. Recently, speaking to one of the college students here at St. Greg's, he told me, when I asked him, invited him to become a little more active in the parish, he said, well, I'm really planning to do that after I retire. And I questioned what he meant by that, and he said, well, you know, I'm far too busy in college right now, and after college, I'll be beginning a career, and I hope to be successful in my career. I hope to get married and raise a family. So once all of that is done, then I could probably see myself, getting involved in the church. Well, I think he's kind of like the two arrows going in different directions. The two won't intersect. I think the new math even has that an arrow keeps going in the same direction and straight arrows do not intersect. Some perhaps see the relationship of themselves and God as two circles in the same sphere. They're two circles not joined together. We're aware that the Lord is out there and I'm over here, and the two don't really need to meet. I'm perfectly happy living my life the way it is, and we'll let Christ do what he wants over there. And the two don't really meet. They're separate entities. I've met individuals like this. I'm sure you have as well. And then there's some that run tangent to Christ. Just as a line will go beside a circle, they touch Christ. Perhaps they're baptized. Maybe they make it to Mass at Christmas time or something, but there's no real integration of their life with Christ. It just kind of runs tangent once in a great while. And then there's others who are like intersecting circles. Christ is one, they themselves another, and there are parts of their life that they are that disciple. And they're working hard in those areas that they perhaps agree with the faith and agree with Christ, or at least understand, and there's some sections of their life that are completely not following Christ. They try part of their life to be that disciple. I know many individuals like that. And then finally, there's the last group, the group that I hope all of us are in, that our circle of life is completely enveloped by that of Christ. That everything that we say and do, 24/7, 365, 366 on leap year, everything we do, we're that disciple of Christ. Our life is completely enclosed by Christ, completely defined by Christ, and when we make decisions of our life, it's based on his teaching, and we strive in every facet, as difficult as it is, to be a good disciple. What does it really mean to have Christ as the very center of our life, the very center of everything? And really, how is it that you identify yourself? Which of the diagrams maybe describe you, where you are right now in your own life? For our graduates, tonight's an important night. We are launching you into a world where many believe that each human person is the center of the world. I like the old posters of Manhattan and Los Angeles. Perhaps you'll remember them. It would be a large poster, a picture of Midtown Manhattan, and then on the poster would be a dot. It would be like a globe, and a dot saying, LA, another dot saying Tokyo, and, it all revolves around Manhattan, Sometimes our world, we see ourselves that way. The whole world revolves around ourselves. But there's a problem, because for us as Christians, as disciples, we can't live like that. The Christian is called to see Christ as the center, and that we're completely surrounded by Christ throughout our whole life. And I do believe, and you'll probably agree with me, that we live in an epic darkness of identity today. We see it in the news all the time, and many of the issues facing society and church today are those of identity. Who am I? How do I define myself? Very important question to ask. And for the disciple of Christ, that answer is clear. I'm a disciple of Christ, and everything flows from that. But if we see division come, if we see isolation come, if we see separation come, then we have to question, are we really of Christ? You see, it's the devil who wants to divide and separate. It's Christ who wants to unify and make strong. And the readings today really give us a great insight. Jeremiah wrote and was a prophet when the nation was in great disaster. The nation was destructive. It was falling apart. And God sent Jeremiah and said, what? I knew you before you were formed in the womb. I knew you before you were born. And I'm sending you out. I'm dedicating you as a prophet to go out and to speak the truth to the nation. God says the same thing to us. To each one of us here, especially to our graduates, before you were even formed in the womb, God knew you. And before you were born, He dedicated you. And God needs you to be His prophet in the world today, which is often filled with a great darkness, for you to be the light. I think no matter which side of the fence we stand on, we'll probably all agree our nation has many troubles and problems, and so does the whole world. And so you as disciples need to go out to be that light of Christ, to bring the unity in places of division, to bring holiness where there is less than sacred action, to be the light in the time of darkness. We hear about King David in the second reading. King David knew who he was. He was called by God to be king. And in the gospel, John the Baptist knew who he was. From that moment of conception, so everybody in town knew something was going on. His mother, very old, thought not to be able to have children. His father now not being able to speak. They knew something was happening with this baby. And then in the gospel, as we heard it, the moment of his dedication, his name is John. You can't name him John. And Zechariah, being a good husband, he agreed completely with his wife. The baby's name is John. And with that, he was now able to speak. And we, of course, know that John knew his identity. His parents knew his identity as that last great herald, that great prophet of Christ. Well, we might say that's all nice in history, but the world is so different today. Now, for our graduates, you will know this name well. Hopefully for everyone in church we do. I've spoken of him so much. Carlo Acutis. Carlo Acutis, who has become my new hero, really. Carlo Acutis, for those who do not know him, Carlo Acutis was is on the road to sainthood. He was beatified this past October. He died in 2006 at the age of 15. At the age of 15 in 2006. And as a true disciple of Christ, he knew who he belonged to. He knew his true identity. As a young disciple of Christ, he would walk by a church, as his parents tell the stories. As soon as he could walk, he insisted to go into every church he passed. He would run up to the cross and kiss it, and he would insist that his parents bring flowers to the lady, meaning to the Blessed Mother. His parents didn't understand why he wanted to do this, because his parents were not church-going people. They had him baptized, but that was it. They didn't go to Mass by their own admission. And when he was 7 years of age, he asked his parents to receive First Communion. It was not their plan that he was going to be catechized and go to receive the Eucharist. He asked of himself. And at the age of 7, he received communion, and from that day forward, on his own, went to daily Mass in Milan, Italy, where they lived. And Carlo had a great care and compassion for the poor. As a young boy, not even 10 years of age, he would pass by this man who was indigent. Carlo, on his own, took his own money, went to a store, bought a sleeping bag, and gave it to the man so he could at least be warm at night. Carlo, when he went on to a Jesuit high school, he regularly got his teenage friends to go with him to serve in the inner cities of Milan, to serve the poor, to serve in the soup kitchens. And he regularly challenged his fellow students at his high school to lead a chaste life, as many of the guys started dating and talking about things that were not so much a disciple of Christ to talk about. He corrected them. And when Carlo was 14 years of age, he was known to be quite a computer genius. And at the age of 14, he designed a website which cataloged all of the Eucharistic miracles that ever took place in the history of the world. You can go on that website today and learn all about all of the Eucharistic miracles. Carlo was a disciple of Christ, a normal 15-year-old teenager who liked to play video games, but limited himself to 1 hour a week, because he knew if he played video games more than 1 hour a week, it would pull him away from being a disciple of Christ. Carlo liked eating ice cream. And he and I would have gotten along well because he got into trouble in school all the time for talking. He liked to talk, just like me. I share that story of Carlo Acutis with you, because Carlo Acutis was the Jeremiah to the people in Milan. Carlo Acutis, part of that royalty of David, bearing the name of Jesus Christ as a baptized member of his body. Carlo Acutis was just like John the Baptist, a herald of the gospel. And you, for our graduates in particular, for all of us, we are called to do the same. We're called to do the same. Carlo Acutis had a couple quotes, and with that I will bring my talk to an end. One of his quotes that he enjoyed so much saying was, "We are all born as originals, but most of us die as photocopies." I love that quote. We're all born as originals. We're born in the image and likeness of Christ. We're endowed with so many beautiful gifts and talents and abilities. We're all born with that ability to be with Christ right in the very heart, the very center, completely enveloped by him, and in so doing to really be an original. But unfortunately, so many choose the way of the world in conformity to the popular society, and they die just a photocopy. Another one from Carlo that is so beautiful. The Eucharist is my highway to heaven. The Eucharist is my highway to heaven. He believed in the real presence of Jesus Christ in the Eucharist. He believed as he received the Eucharist daily. And his parish priest said that after daily Mass, he would just sit in the church before the tabernacle in prayer he believed so firmly in the presence of Jesus in the Eucharist. And it was that Eucharist, I am sure, that gave him the courage to do all that he did and accomplish in 15 years what most of us will not accomplish for Christ through the course of 80, 90, or 100. So, as we bring this time of graduation to a close in this homily, the simple question, how did you get here? Where are you? And who are you? And hopefully in prayer today, as we all go forward from church, we make that decision to be that circle completely encircled by Christ, and to allow the body of Christ to be strong and broad, bearing his light and his unity in a world that sharply needs it. Your identity from your baptism is a member of the body of Christ. That is who you are and who we need you to be as you move forward to high school, to college, to career, and beyond. Please be that brilliant light that I know you're capable of being.